the JSE 0.5% in the green. We started the day off on a positive note. It seems that all the risk appetite coming to the fore, really emanating from the Eurozone. And we also had some interesting job numbers out of the US yesterday.
Yes, Lenny, we see the broader markets have been pushed by commodities. We're seeing, us open up stronger this morning. We see the Hang Seng, your Asia markets all stronger. All your commodity-driven economies are stronger today, off positive news from the EU that they're looking at bailing Greece out. So possibly we could see some activity this afternoon. If we look at this afternoon, we're expecting some data out in terms of retail sales out of the States, and that could probably buoy us further if those numbers come out better than expected, if that trend continues.
Looking at the rest of today's trade, you alluded to some of the data that will be released in the US that could be market moving. Do you think we'll end off the week on a positive note, Yolanda, given the fact that we did have the State of the Nation address yesterday? Of course, keeping in mind we've also got that budget speech next week, so I think investors are also bracing themselves for that.
Yes, Lenny, if one looks at the State of the Nation's address, even though it really didn't have much detail in it, so there's a lot of good intention, a lot of looking at infrastructure spend, creating jobs, not much detail as to how they're going to actually go about it. So markets really looking forward to next week, and I think the whole the news really is out of Greece and how they're going to be dealing in terms of the EU. That seems to be driving the market.
Looking at some of the trading updates that we had today, of course, Aspen and Sasol as well. You said that commodities really boosting the local bourse today, but on the earnings front, we are seeing some of these companies coming under pressure. In fact, Sasol first half headline earnings per share expected to be between 50 and 55% lower, really showing that the slump that we saw in the commodity prices really impacting these local companies. Apart from that, the stronger rand being also a negative.
Yes, Lenny, in terms of Sasol, one looks at Brent spot, and that rose all the way up to $80. It's come off, obviously up a very high base. Your $140. Sasol has come out, and I think what was negative, or the market took it negatively, the trading statement on the 3rd of December stated they're expecting to be down 45%. They've come out to say down between 50 and 55, so still quite negative. The stronger rand really hurting them. Going forward though, if we're looking at possibly a stronger dollar, weaker rand, we could see some benefit coming there. We see some support for Sasol at 270 rand. We see it went down to 268. It's bounced up quite nicely. Nedbank still has a sell on the stock, quite risk, with a quite high risk view on it, but market seems to find support at 270.
You said sell on the stock at this stage, but when we look at the demand prospects for oil, everyone's speculating that we could see oil hit about $100 a barrel later on this year. Some a little bit more bearish, saying that we could just see it trading between the $70 to $80 a barrel level. When you take a look at all the speculation that's coming to the fore, would you be buying Sasol at these levels, given the demand prospect could pick up?
Well, if one looks at, if you take a view, and we saw some CPI numbers coming out globally that are hinting that demand is going to be slow and probably not as good as the market is pricing in, we wouldn't be buying the stock. I think we see demand quite slow. We've seen a slight pickup in Brent spot off demand from the harsh weather conditions we're having, but we don't see Brent spot moving over $80 a barrel.
Yolanda, on the defensive front, Aspen Pharmacare really proving that generic drugs are a defensive play. They say headline earnings per share are going to be between 20% and 30% higher, so really a solid performance on that front.
Yes, Eleni, and we see that Aspen has benefited from the stronger rand because they benefit on their import costs, and they've also, if one looks, the statement this morning said that they've benefited from SA, and they provide the AIDS HIV medication more than 50% to our local hospitals, and with the policy change in SA in terms of providing medication, we're going to see Aspen benefiting from that. And we saw them coming out, and into the new year we're going to see them just grow stronger and stronger.
Well, Aspen's stock rallying today on the back of this trading update. A buy at these levels, do you think a lot has been priced in already?
Helene, I'd probably buy at about 68 Rand. We could see it run further. It is a nice defensive stock with investors perhaps entering the new year being cautious. We're going to see investors moving into defensive stocks. Your Isoveris we see is nicely up on the day. BTI also nice up on the day. So there's going to be a move into defensive stocks. And you know, if you're cautious about the new year and the global economy, that is where you're going to make money.
Yolanda, how are you positioning yourself ahead of Pravin Gordhan's budget statement that is set to be presented next week? Anything in specific that investors should be looking out for ahead of that speech?
Well, if one looks at President Zuma's State of the Nation address last night, he has hinted that they're going to be spending more in terms of infrastructure spend, probably more on your social grants. I think what's going to be interesting, we'll see that sin tax will definitely be increased. We might see capital gain tax go up. It's possible, I think, in terms of rate taxes across the board, we might not see an overall increase. But because of the low revenue that the budget is experiencing, with low corporate earnings as well as job losses, which meant that Sasol has not been able to collect as much taxes, we're going to see the budget being squeezed quite dramatically, and we're expecting a 7.8% of GDP budget number coming out, which would be a concern. Obviously, the higher the number, but we might see tax increases in your higher tax bracket. We might see an increase there, so risk to that number. But so I think it'll be interesting to see exactly what gets presented next week, and it is his first budget speech after Trevor Manuel.